Hello, brethren, companions, friends, and curious minds. Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, the podcast where we explore the ideas, symbolism, and philosophy that sit at the very heart of Freemasonry. I'm your host, Worshipful Brother and excellent companion, Stephen Nagy. And this episode is brought to you by the Learning and Development Team here at Surrey Freemasons, supporting brethren across the province in their journey of learning, understanding, and personal growth within the craft. In this episode, we're exploring a topic that sounds simple on the surface, and that would be symbols of the lodge. But here's the truth. When you step into a lodge, you don't just enter a room. You enter a symbolic world. And unless you've stopped to really consider it, you may have missed the fact that almost everything around you, from the floor beneath your feet to the ceiling above your head, they're all trying to teach you something. This episode is about slowing down and noticing it. Now, Freemasonry does not operate like a classroom. It does not hand you a textbook and says, here are the answers. Instead, it hands you symbols. And why is this? Because symbols do something that plain language cannot. A sentence gives you information. A symbol gives you reflection. A sentence ends once it's been spoken. But a symbol continues to reveal meaning as you grow and as your understanding deepens. This is one of the great strengths of Freemasonry. It does not simply tell you what to think. It opens the doors and it invites you to think. And the lodge itself is designed in a symbolic environment, a place where meaning surrounds you from every direction. The first thing to understand is that the lodge room, it's not simply a meeting space. It's a symbolic representation of the world itself. Its orientation reflects order. Its arrangement reflects harmony. And its structure reflects balance and moral architecture. When we say that a lodge is properly constituted, we're not simply talking about legality or administration. We are talking about completeness and harmony. Everything has its place. Everything has its purpose. And when those elements work together, the lodge becomes something more than a room. It becomes a symbolic model of how life itself should be structured. Now, let's begin with something simple. The floor beneath our feet. Often represented as a checkered or mosaic pavement, it is made up of alternating black and white squares, light and dark, joy and sorrow, success and failure. The mosaic pavement reminds us of a fundamental truth about life. Life is not one-dimensional. It's a balance of opposites. No life is entirely light, and no life is entirely shadow. Freemasonry does not promise a world free from difficulty. Instead, it teaches us how to walk steadily across the changing patterns of life. Now, at the entrance of many lodges, we may find the symbolic pillars. They are not merely decorative. They represent strength, establishment, and foundation. A building without strong pillars cannot stand. And in the same way, a life without principles cannot remain stable. These pillars remind us that strength is not simply physical power. It is moral strength. It is the strength to stand by principles, the strength to remain upright in difficult times, and the strength to support others. At the center of the lodge lies one of the most important symbols of all, and that would be the volume of the sacred law. In lodges operating under the authority of the United Grand Lodge of England, the presence of the volume of the sacred law reminds us that Freemasonry is founded upon a belief in moral accountability. It represents the idea that morality does not exist merely as personal opinion. It must be grounded in something higher. Freemasonry does not dictate a particular belief system, but it does remind us that life requires a moral center. Without that center, everything else loses stability. Perhaps the most recognized symbol in Freemasonry is the square and compasses. Yet, familiarity can sometimes cause us to overlook the meaning. The square reminds us to act with fairness, honesty, and integrity, to square the actions with virtue. The compasses remind us of restraint and boundaries. They teach us to keep our passions and desires within proper bounds. Together, they represent balance, not rigidity, not perfection, but balance. The balance between action and restraint, between ambition and humility, and between freedom and responsibility. Let's take a look at the officers. Now, here is something that is sometimes overlooked. The lodge does not merely contain symbols, it is operated by them. Each officer in the lodge represents an idea. The worshipful master represents wisdom. The senior warden represents strength. The junior warden represents beauty and harmony. The deacons, they represent communication and guidance. Even the tiler guarding the lodge room from outside represents vigilance and protection. In this way, the lodge becomes a living system of symbolic roles, each contributing to the harmony of the whole. No one role stands alone. Each supports the other. Just as in life, balance and cooperation create strength. At a deeper level, the lodge is not only a symbol of the universe, it's symbolic of you. The order of the lodge reflects the order we should seek in our own lives. Its harmony reflects the harmony we should cultivate in our own thoughts and actions. Its balance reflects the balance we must strive for between duty, responsibility, and personal growth. When you sit in a lodge, you are sitting inside a symbolic model of the person you are trying to become. Structured, balanced, grounded, and always striving towards improvement. Now, why do these symbols still matter? In a world that often moves quickly and values immediate answers, symbolism asks us to slow down, to reflect, to think deeply about meaning rather than simply absorbing information. Freemasonry has preserved this symbolic language for centuries because it speaks to something universal in human nature. The struggles we face today are not so different from those faced by generations before us. We still seek balance. We still seek wisdom. And we still seek light. And the symbols of the lodge continue to guide us in that search. So the next time you enter a lodge room, pause for a moment before that meeting begins. Look around you. Notice the arrangement. Notice the symbols. Because the lodge is not simply a place where Masons gather. It is a carefully constructed, symbolic environment designed to remind us of how we should live. A place where architecture becomes philosophy and where symbols quietly encourage us to build better lives. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Working Tools podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps this channel become discovered. And remember, the working tools are in your hands. What will you build?